That'll pick us up. Yeah. So, Morgan, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah.
Just another day on the planet.
Another day on the planet.
Yeah, 130,000 people die a day, innit? So you just gotta be grateful.
Wow, yeah. What a great perspective to have, yeah. So what were you doing? You're saying you went to the gym?
Yeah, it's not been too long of a day, to be honest. What time we're now? It's been about 6 hours long. So I'd say woke up, did a bit of reading, had breakfast, and then just went straight to the gym. And then obviously Manchester being Manchester, there's absolutely loads of traffic, so it took about half an hour to get there.
It was fucking pouring it down. Like, I was worried I wasn't going to make it back in time because I was on my bike, and the wind was just like, it was coming from the south, so it was just so strong. I was like trying to pedal against the wind. It was very tense, but you know.
I couldn't imagine being on a bike in this weather.
Oh, bro, it's rough. Because I bought a bike and I thought, oh, what a great way to get around really quickly, good exercise.
Stay active.
But it's horrible. I just especially in this weather. Like, I'd imagine it'd be nice in the summer and stuff, but at the moment, I'm just cycling around and it's just freezing cold.
You picked the worst time to get a bike, really.
Yeah.
But then again, if you do it through the hard time, it's going to be lovely.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. Quite dangerous in Manchester as well. Like, I don't feel very safe.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like the people that drive in Manchester are reckless. And you just get them people that are just doing like 50 and a 30. You're riding next to them thinking, oh no, please don't hit me.
Yeah.
I've just started using them, the city bikes that are around to get to work and stuff.
Yeah.
Ideally, though, there's like a bike lane, so you can literally just stay in that the whole way down. But honestly, it's such a good idea.
Trust, man, trust. Like, so much safer. It just makes it possible as well.
Yeah. Look, like it's accessible to people that either don't have a bike or just don't want to take public transport. But it's a similar sort of price anyway.
Yeah. I mean, and for how much you're paying, it's very reasonable, really.
Oh, definitely. Unless you get one which the tyres jammed. I was riding one the other day, and it was like, the resistance that you can change gears, but it was like being in gear 10. The front wheels wasn't going at all, so my legs were blowing out. I was only I made 5 meters.
Shit, bro.
And the next station wasn't for another 5 minutes, so I just had to push through it. I got off the bike and my legs were like jelly.
I just wonder when they're going to get those electric scooters in Manchester, because I haven't seen it yet, but when they come to Manchester, it's going to be intense.
Man, they're in Salford at the minute.
Are they?
Yeah, I've only been on one once, but you feel like you're flying.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. It's pretty intense. So have you lived in Manchester all your life?
No. So moved here for uni. What was this about? End of 2018.
Okay.
From Middlesbrough originally, which is quite far up north, and it was quite a small town, especially in comparison to Manchester. It's about 40,000 people. Very small town mentality too. People will be born there. They'll go to college or anything, then they'll get an apprenticeship or they'll get a job, and then that's pretty much them. They'll get a house with the girlfriend. They'll have kids. They'll have a dog, and that's pretty much that's just how life goes in Middlesbrough. So I wanted to sort of get into a city where there was a lot more opportunity. So I moved to Manchester, and then I graduated about a year and a bit ago, so it'll be in 2021. And just decided to stay here, even though it's expensive. Just because I just wanted to, I felt like I hadn't really explored Manchester or what it had to offer, especially in terms of all of the opportunities. So I just wanted to sort of stay here and see what happened after that. Did recruitment for a year after I finished, because have you graduated uni? Or are you still
I will this year. So,
right, okay. And have you thought about sort of
Yeah, I have.
Afterwards?
So it's really not coming up with anything definite. I mean, I've got ideas, but which I'm putting into practice. But it's I'm worried I'm going to choose the wrong thing almost, So it's very uncertain what I'm going to do. At the moment, I guess I'll just see what comes up. But
that was what it was like for me. Well, I graduated and I was like, shit, what do I do now? Because I did mechanical engineering at uni, but I really didn't want to go into that. So I was I felt like my options were very limited, and recruitment was very low barriers to entry. So I was right, I'll go in that. You can make a lot of money. Got into it, and it's just cold calling all day. You just sat at a desk, emailing people, ringing people. Nobody wants to speak to you as well. I did that for a year and was I need to get out of this. And then,
what are you recruiting for?
So I did 2 different jobs. So first of all, it was doing renewable energy, but it was in France. So there's quite a stigma behind French people not really liking English people, especially not working with them. So and there was a bit of a language barrier there too. So it was like I was calling random people up in France, trying to basically say that we can help them hire the staff that they need. So it just seemed so difficult. And then
were you speaking to them? So people in France, you were cold calling.
Yeah. So, but it was like managing directors and like wind farm managers and so like anyone that worked either on the project or on the site that needed like staff.
Yeah. Okay.
There was not only was because there was quite the language barrier in terms of like as soon as you answer the phone, you either get the phone put down straight away because it's an English number and like they just don't want the time to speak to you, and then or even if you keep them on for a few seconds, they're just like, oh, we want to work with French people, so or French companies anyway, and keep it in house. So it was just like you sort of felt like you were fighting an immovable object a little bit.
The French are very stubborn about their culture. Like it's very few countries I can compare it to. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but they are just so set in their ways. And they'll be quite blunt about it, you know.
100%. Like, the amount of times where they just tell you like do one.
Really?
Like you get to the point where it just sort of doesn't faze you anymore. But at first you just sort of like sit back in your chair and was like, did anyone else hear that? Like,
yeah. So what got you into it in the first place then?
Recruitment purely because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And that was just like there was whenever you go on like any job websites or Indeed or anything, like 75% of the jobs are recruitment. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And then after that, I just realised that it takes a very sort of select person to be in that sort of. You have to be like pretty much entirely money motivated. Because that's the only reason people go into recruitment. It's not like people want to sit there and like find people jobs.
Make lots of money from it.
Yeah. Like I think my manager at the time, I think he was like making the most in our company, but he was making like 300 grand a year. So it's like it is serious money, and I think that's what people like sort of crave in a way, and what keeps them and like makes them want to go through all that graph. Because it was like it's not a typical 9 to 5. No. It's like you officially start at 8:30 and officially finish at 5:30, but the expectation was that you're in before 8 and you stay till 6:30, 7:30.
Seriously?
Yeah, and then sometimes even working weekends. And I mean, that's all good if you are either passionate about what it is you're working on, or you want to see is numbers in your bank account. But if you're sort of going into it for the wrong reasons, I think you're just never going to succeed. And that was my sort of fallback when it came to it. So I just had to leave that and then spent a bit more time trying to figure out what it is that I wanted from life, really.
What have you discovered?
What we were talking about sort of before we started, I think self-improvement. My idea of like what I want to do with my life is help other people like achieve their potential, and just be. Obviously, I want to make money. Like I don't know anyone who doesn't want to make money, but I want to be knowing that I'm giving like value to other people that has earned the right to earn that money. So it's also like helping other people, helping myself by helping other people in a way. And however that like materializes, I guess it's only time will tell. But the idea is to sort of have a YouTube channel or have some sort of social influence where that I can like reach a broader range of people and sort of just help them in any way I can, really.
What got you into self-help to begin with?
It's an interesting question, actually. I'm not entirely sure. So I think I've been interested in it for the last sort of like 4 or 5 years. I think from like as soon as I was like 16, 17. I think because when I was growing up, like there was a lot of things that were happening in my life, whether that be with like family or mentally, that I didn't quite understand, and I needed to understand it, and so that I could try and sort of like maybe not fix, but try and like manipulate my situation to like work for me instead of working against me. Like with family, for example, like there was a lot of sort of particularly with my parents, it was like they had a lot of shit going on that sort of maybe impacted like my relationship with them. So I sort of wanted to. I first started wanting to learn about like psychology and understand sort of like how the brain works, so that I could try and understand like my parents more. And I think from there, it just sort of like introduced me to this whole new world of like being able to like not only understand like why people do certain things, like why people make certain decisions, what you can actually like do. The more you can understand sort of about like your psychology, like your brain, even like your physical and mental health, like the more that I could then like use those areas to try and like help my own life, and then hopefully off the back of that sort of improve my relationships. So I think that's probably where it started.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting what you're saying about how understanding your psychology helps you like make sense of why you do certain things. Because I think that's kind of the big thing with self-help, is it's like, oh yeah, you are, if you know what you're working with, that is your brain. If you know how your brain works, then you can master it and improve. But what would you say is like in the sort of self-help? I presume you got a lot from YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah, YouTube, books, podcasts. Like YouTube was the initial starter, and then from that found podcasts, and then went on to sort of books to try and get a bit more of a chiseled version, or a lot of information in one place.
But what sort of YouTubers inspired you? I mean, when we first met, you were saying Hamza was a big one, but were there any others you kind of...
Yeah, well, Hamza's only been sort of in the last year or so. I think initially there's a couple YouTube channels which have been around for a while, like Big Think, and they sort of introduce you to like larger societal ideas, whether that's like why people make certain decisions or why certain cultures have a certain like mindset. Like for example, like people in the East, they're a lot more about sort of happiness, fulfillment, and sharing and giving. Whereas in the West, it's more about sort of individualism and like it's more about like sort of greed and wanting to maximize like their own sort of profits and things like that. Where in the East, it's a lot more about sort of sharing and giving back.
Well, when you say the East, what is that like? What sort of region, or just generally?
Like mainly sort of Asia.
East Asia.
Yeah, as opposed to sort of like Western colonies like the US, the UK.
No, I think a big difference between China and the US is the Chinese just have such a groupthink mentality, and not necessarily in a bad way, because that's why they're so productive. But I think it's just kind of like, if you're a builder working on a big site and your arm falls off in a terrible accident, the attitude is like, oh, it doesn't matter, there's someone else who can do the same job as me. You know, it's like that's so weird to us. But yeah, I mean, do you think you can take that too far, or do you think the big mistake of the West is we focus too much on the individual? Because it's definitely true that we do, because that's if you become too thinking within yourself, that's kind of what a lot of causes depression is, I think. And partly why it's such a big problem at the moment is because we're not forced to think outside our own environment so much. But do you think there's an extreme to the other side?
I think with everything, to be honest, you should never think to one extreme or another. I think the world's a lot more like grey than black and white. Like I think that there's components of both of them that you should take, whatever you find that works for you or you feel like can fit together, so that you're seeing the both, so you're focusing on your own sort of individual things, but also thinking of a collective. Then that's when you get the best of both worlds. Because it's like, it's like where people say like, oh, you shouldn't eat bad food, or you should eat bad food, or like you should go running, or you shouldn't. Like they're very like big statements of like you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Whereas like everything in moderation like is good. Like you shouldn't eat healthy for the rest of your life and never have a single day where you're like, I want some chocolate. There's always going to be sort of some leeway on both sides, and I think that's how you end up like getting the best out of any situation.
Completely. Yeah, I think a big problem with regards to diet is that everyone just wants that one big statement about the thing that's going to solve your diet. It's like, oh, this thing is the thing that's causing problems. And obviously there's some truth in all of it, but I think the big thing with diet, and this goes for the rest of your life really, is like, it's you have to be really nuanced, because you can't just eat like vegetables your whole life, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, we lost a few minutes. Like I say, very low tech. But just to recap, we were talking about alcohol. So yeah, getting to blackout drunk. Yeah, I mean, it's just very scary, I think. And like you're just at the mercy of whoever finds you in that state, really.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's just like, have you ever had beer fear? Like, you wake up the next day and you don't know what you've said, you don't know what you've done. Like, you got stains all over, like, you pray and you haven't said the wrong thing. And just waking up like that, and I was just like, I do not want this anymore. Like, and also, I think it was at the time in my life where, because I've stepped away from like doing full-time work and like I'm trying to sort of make the most of like being young and being able to like make mistakes and like try new things. And I think that like that was sort of prohibiting me from being able to make the changes that I wanted to, or like have the life that I wanted to, because like drinking's fun, don't get me wrong, but I didn't want to have another excuse as to why I'm not able to do something. Yeah.
I think something that people discover when they don't drink for even a short period of time is like how much mental energy is lost when you drink. Like that's really interesting what you're saying about sleep, and that it messes up your sleep for like 2 days, because I can completely believe that myself. Because it's just, you go without it for a very short period of time, and like your mental focus is just so much crisper.
It's ridiculous. And you wake up and you're fresh, like from the get-go. Like you don't have to have this like recovery period where you're eating loads of crap and like you're just laying in bed pretty much doing nothing. Like I think even having like a few days off, or like even when you have like, say you typically go out on a weekend, if you just have one weekend off, like I guarantee that like you're probably gonna have a better weekend. Yeah. Like,
well, it's funny because like obviously I'm at uni and stuff, and like you're saying, like, I do want to experience being young and stuff. But there was one weekend recently where like I was meant to be seeing some friends, and like, you know, we're gonna go out and drink and stuff, and then like one of them was like tired or whatever, so we just like, we'll do it another time. And at first I was like, what a shame, you know. But then I was like, so I was just in my room like, what am I going to do? And then I just suddenly thought, maybe I could just clean this room up a bit, you know, and I just kind of, I just cleaned my room, which took like basically the rest of the evening, and then I was like, by the end of it I was actually like, this is a much better use of my time. And you go to bed and wake up next day, and you know, you haven't got a massive hangover, and you're not worried about what you said. I mean, that's the big thing for me, is like, what you're saying, like beer fear. It's so just not having that, and now I've got a clean room, and what else can I do? And what I realised slightly is that I don't have to go out all the time. You know, like it's actually a bit of a waste of time now. Now I realise what I could be doing in that time.
I think at this age as well, like you sort of like it's more of a habit to go out than it is like sometimes you might not even want to, but you're so used to doing it.
Yeah.
That you're like, oh well, I mean, it's Friday night or it's Tuesday. Like, oh, I may just want to go out. Why would I not do it? Like, I've got nothing else I want to do.
Yeah.
And like, it's just sort of like, okay, it's just another day. You just go out. But I think this is also like.
You get used to spending all that money as well. That's
Get used to being skinned.
Like, yeah.
And like, if you think back to like what that money's actually gone on, like, I don't know, for me personally, it's like, I just think the cost to like not can't think of the word, like the cost to output sort of, like what you're getting for what you're paying for is like it's just not great. Especially when you every night that you go out with mates, like there's not that many that like really stick out, like, oh, this was like a really special night. Like it's just another night out with the boys.
They're being to blend into each other sometimes.
It's like especially if you're not sort of meeting new people or going to a new place, like it just is just like it's just another habit. You're sort of in autonomy mode. Like I've just started really like think about this and like doing a bit of research on this stuff, and like the majority of the day, like you actually are just on autopilot. Like you wake up, like instinctively grab your phone, or most people do anyway, like do a bit of scrolling, then you'll get out of bed, then you'll probably like be watching something while you're doing something else, and like I'm pretty sure it's like 75% of someone's thoughts throughout the day are repeated thoughts.
Right.
So you're actually like you're doing the same things and you're thinking the same things for like a large majority of the day. It's only when like you sort of have a bit of intention behind what you're doing. Like when you said that you cleaned your room, like you actually like you wouldn't have done that just automatically. It was because you then had that spare time to, and like then you felt so much better for it because it was something sort of out of the normal for what you would normally do. And then like I just know like a lot of people are just living like on autopilot.
Like you're so scared to go into the unknown a bit. Like that's something I realised myself is that like part of the appeal of just doing the same old bad habits is it's the devil that you know, and you can see there are problems with it, but there's something about doing something brand new or starting a new habit that's very scary, and we're quite wired to fear the unknown.
Definitely.
But I think you have to embrace it to some extent, and I guess we live in a world now where we can get away with it. Get away with not facing the unknown probably more than ever. But if you subscribe to that life just very quickly, you're just on autopilot. And like I remember meeting this guy who was about like in his 50s or something, and he was a friend of this friend I have in Birmingham, and he's a really nice guy, but he's just had that whole life of like going out like as often as he can, and like now he's retired, so he's just every night drinking and stuff, and like in a sense that's what awaits you if you don't see something else.
If you don't put some like intention behind what you're doing. You see a lot of people like that. I think I personally quite enjoy speaking to like older people, like to not only sort of learn what they've done with their life to lead up to that point, but also to learn what not to do in a way. Like, and like you said, it's very easy now to sort of just let each day like slip by, and then eventually you do end up just at the point where you've worked your entire life, and then you just go out drinking, or you just sit and watch TV. And it's like for some people, not to like discredit that life, because some people do want that life.
Well, that's the thing, like, and that's part of the problem is some people are just perfectly happy with it, and it's just like, who cares at the end of the day. But like there are, I think some people who end up down that path kind of want more.
Definitely. Well, I think even if like you speak to your friends, and they talk about the life that they want, and then how different that is to the life that they live in now, or the life that they want in the future, and you just think like there's got to be so many people out there that like had big goals and dreams and sort of didn't pursue that because, like you said earlier, the fear of the unknown, or because they didn't know how, or like because it was a risk, and so they end up just sort of another cog in the system. They work for the man, and they retire at 65, 70, and then now they've got sort of small amount of money to enjoy the last sort of 10, 15 years on the planet with, when they're already sort of past the point where they could fully enjoy it and do the things that they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I start to think about. Like, I don't like it when people talk about their careers and they're already talking about retirement and stuff. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to make lots of money, so, you know, when I'm 50, I'll be rich. And it's like, yeah, if you're doing a good job, then, you know, and you enjoy it, and then, like, fair enough. But I don't like this sentiment that I think people of our age group do seem to have it quite a lot, where it's just so fixated on earning money for when you retire, and then life will be great. But I don't know how you can think like that when, like, life really isn't that exciting for doing the kind of things you want to do now when you're older. Like, it just doesn't. You're just not living the same kind of life, and you don't have the same wants. I think being old in some ways is a really amazing part of your life, but not for the kind of reason that I think people think.
Yeah,
I don't
know. I agree with you. I think what's the point just sort of thinking about, or I can't wait to do this when I retire, or I can't wait to basically just sort of skip past this next 30 years so that I can enjoy myself then. Yeah. Like, should the focus not be trying to enjoy yourself throughout the entire period? But then again, my opinion on the whole sort of 9 to 5, for the majority anyway, is I think a lot of people probably don't want to wait until they're 50, 60 to retire and enjoy life, but a lot of people don't realise that there is other avenues to go down apart from working until you're too old.
What other avenues would you advise people who are looking to change their lives?
I just think everyone has passions.
Yeah.
And I think if you really want to, some people will enjoy a 9 to 5, but for the people that only think that's the only option, like, I think anything that you find as a passion at the moment, like, if you're able to slowly transition that from a passion to something that you can get paid for, and like, that's not going to be a quick journey. Like, no. At first it's gonna have to be a passion project, and then you might get to the skill level where you are able to start charging a little bit, and then it's just about sort of scaling that over time. Like, I can't exactly talk from a point of like an expert point of view or anything, but just from what I've like understood so far, and I think it's like it's going to take effort. Like,
yeah, I think the problem with doing things for passion, like doing things you're passionate about, is you think that you don't have to work hard at it. I think if like, I see this with bands a lot of the time, it's like they want to be big, you know, they want to be successful, but they enjoy, you know, at the end of the day they just can't enjoy music and they're just having fun with it. I think if you applied the kind of seriousness that you'd apply for if you're working at like a law firm or something, you know, where it's like every day and on the weekends, like 7 to 6, you're working, doing productive things towards that aim. So if more musicians took that attitude, then like they'd be famous, you know. I think yeah, it's like you don't have to enjoy your passion. I mean, you do, but if you want to get somewhere with it, it's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be quite rough.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with a lot of like people to go along with the music thing. Like I live with a band.
Oh really?
Yeah, and they like they have been working on the like mixing this one song for the past like month and a half.
Oh, really?
And like and like they wanted it out 4 weeks ago. But like they're now just sort of like debating on the semantics of it, where it's like the prolonging how long it's taken to get this one song out. And now they want to put a whole album out, but it's going to take like a whole year at the rate that they're going at. But and like you said, like they want to be successful, they want to like do that as a career. But it's like you've got to. I think what we were talking about before anyway. It's about just getting the quantity out there at the minute, and then focus on the quality when you.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, I think because I play a bit of music as well, and there was a time when I wanted to pursue it in a sort of semi-professional way, and for the most part, I just didn't really enjoy it, because I was doing things I didn't want to do in order to improve my craft. But I really transformed as a musician in that period, because at that period of my life I was really like, it was all really like, how can I improve, I wasn't just like sitting back and thinking, this song kind of sounds nice, maybe we turn the bass up on this track, like fussing over some tiny little thing. And I think it just depends if you want it as a side project that distracts you from your life. I think you do need those.
Oh, definitely,
to some extent.
Definitely.
But it's different for everyone. But it frustrates me because it's not something you can just say to a band. You can't really. I don't know, just because it's quite it's a brutal truth. To tell people. But
not a lot of people can like would take it constructively, and I suppose it depends how you deliver it as well. But I think it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like when. I mean, even trying to say them sort of brutal truths to yourself is difficult. So saying that to someone else, like, what is there any like elements of your life where you feel like you could be, or you're not putting in that sort of graft that you're wanting to, or?
Any elements? I mean, I would say the podcast is like something I want to work more on, because there are definitely opportunities I'm not taking with it, and there are things going on, like I don't want to get too distracted from uni, and life's very busy, but no, I do think like there are lots of student bands and stuff that I could interview very easily, and I just don't get around to it. But I guess everything to some degree you're always going to fall short on it.
Yeah, especially if you're splitting things up and you've got like multiple things on the go. I think it's sometimes hard to, like for myself, I find difficulty in sort of allocating enough time to each thing, or because I'm like, if I'm spending time exercising, then I'm not spending time sort of working on my personal development, but then I'm not spending enough time trying to apply for these things, and it's like I think it's always about trying to find a balance. But,
so what would you say are your biggest sort of projects? I mean, you talked about fitness and personal development, but could you go into any more detail?
Yeah, well, I think at the moment, so I'm only working about 3 to 4 times a week as a shift leader at Tesco, because I felt like when I was doing a 9 to 5, I didn't have enough time to allocate to sort of the things I want to, and even still now I'm like 3 months into doing this, and I think I've not quite got the ratios right, but at the minute I'm trying to do the YouTube, but at the same time as that, it's more about, that's all about output, whereas I'm trying to sort of like change my mindset towards things, mainly because like in my opinion it's like everything that you're doing externally, it all has to start from in your head. So I'm trying to sort of take out some of the bad habits that I've grew up with for the last 21, 22 years, so that I'm able to sort of do and be more. So I'd say at the minute it's about trying to get rid of my habits around sort of my belief, so like limiting beliefs.
What sort of limiting beliefs do you think you have?
I think the main one would probably be sort of not giving enough effort to things. I think throughout like my entire life, I've like if I'm doing something and I'm like I've put my mind to it, like I think people around me will say that I'd have potential to do it, but then I would potentially fall short of that. And now you shouldn't sort of rest your morals on what other people say, but I also felt that myself, that I had like potential. I've had potential to do and like be a high achiever in these things, and then I've always fell short. And I think I've fallen short because I've sort of got complacent with like my skill level or my ability, and then sort of stopped trying to grow.
Yeah, so it's about believing in yourself and not realising that you're capable of stuff if you put time into it.
Put time and effort, and then it's just consistency is the main thing.
Yeah.
I think like I have periods where I'm really good at doing some things, like whether it's like meditating, reading, like keeping up my relationships with family or friends, and then there's times where like I've completely fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
And it's about sort of reducing the times where I fell off and just being a bit more consistent. And I think once the consistency's there, like you with the podcasts, I think just once we've got the consistency there, then the rest sort of just comes from that point.
Once you routinize things, the quality just comes. It just takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
But you will actually make a change, and that is I suppose that's the really exciting thing about dedicating yourself to some kind of craft, that people don't actually realise it, but like it's hard work, yes, but you will actually get guaranteed pretty much you'll get better at it.
Definitely.
It's such we almost don't focus on that enough. Isn't that amazing that if you just put X amount of effort into something, you'll get better at it?
It's the difference between having a fixed and growth mindset.
Yeah.
So with a fixed mindset, it's like you think that your current skill level is the highest it'll ever be, and you'll never get better. Whereas having a growth mindset, it's like realising that over a long enough period of time and with enough like concentrated effort, that like the skill level you are at now is only going to constantly increase. And it's like like we were saying, with when you put in enough sort of effort over time, like you might not realise like these small improvements you're making, but then there's one point down the line where like that's all going to sort of like come into one, you're just going to explode. But it's about like staying on the path until that point. And I saw this thing a couple of days ago that said like there's a sort of delayed gratification with improving a skill. So there's like you start off at a certain skill level, and then there's a sort of effort you're putting in is going up, but the rate you're improving is kind of staying the same, and then eventually the sort of rate you're improving increases quite dramatically, and then you sort of like, oh, okay, but there's a slight delay with it. So like the incline of the graph was like very, very small the first period, and then you get to a certain point, and then it goes from going like 2 degrees up to like you literally
exactly and then you kind of get paid back for what you, so suddenly you have a massive sort of spurt in productivity.
I think it's like it's interesting to think about, like, because it's all about like sort of pushing through the hard times, isn't it? It's like, and not just sort of giving up when you're not really, because I think as from what I've learned anyway, that like I think we expect to see results a lot quicker than they actually come. There's a quote by Steve Jobs, and it's like, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. And I think that like really sums up what we're trying to say. That's like so true. Massively.
That's so true. Yeah. So where do you see your YouTube thing going? Like what's the steps have you taken in this early periods, and where do you see it in a year's time or a decade, you know?
I think what I'd like to happen in a year's time is I'd like to have consistently uploaded 1 or 2 times a week. I don't want to talk about sort of results in terms of like views, subscribers, because they're outside of my control. So I'd like to have consistently uploaded 1 to 2 times a week, every single week for the next year, and in that time, I've got better at speaking on camera, editing, and also storytelling as well. Because I think with a lot of content, like it is about telling a story, and I think you can only really get better at that from doing it. So I want to be able to, I want to delve more into more topics as well, like, because I think I have a surface level understanding of quite a lot of things, but not enough to be able to like have a good like 15-20 minute piece of content on it and really understand an idea, like not only so that I can understand it, but so that I can explain that to like someone who maybe hasn't heard of it before or would just like to know more.
And what, I mean, we talked about this before, but just for the sake of the podcast, what do you see yourself as bringing that is new to self-help?
I think at the moment a lot of sort of the self-help stuff on YouTube, it's very idealistic. I think it doesn't regard the fact that people struggle with certain things or have certain emotions. Like for myself, I used to be quite an anxious person, and like I think that's a side of self-improvement that isn't really tapped into. Like it sort of tells and shows people how to be better, but doesn't really acknowledge where they're at right now. Like it's not sort of a flick of the switch and you can go from being like, let's say like depressed or anxious or like in a rut, and then you can just, because you've watched a video, you can instantly change and be this like almighty amazing best version of yourself. I think it's like really like understanding and connecting with people where they're at now and being like, you know, it's going to be hard and like you're probably not feeling too great right now, and these are some things that have helped me. Now they might not help you, but it's just giving you more opportunity to try new things, and then once you've sort of got past that period, then we can go into like, right, this is how you can then start improving, and then it's like the gap between sort of where people are now and like the idealism of like self-improvement. It's like sort of bridging that.
I mean, I think the problem with, I guess it's not so much self-help necessarily, but I think Andrew Tate's kind of attitude is, although it's very laudable in a lot of ways, it's just way too idealistic for the average person. And maybe you could say, you know, that's too bad on them, you know. But I think if you're just purely thinking about helping people improve, that kind of attitude is just too extreme.
Definitely.
And it's more likely to discourage people because they think, oh, I'm not as, you know, productive as this person on the internet. Therefore, I'm you know, of very little value. But I think, so that's why I agree with what you're saying is, you know, maybe you just say to those people, oh, you know, you're just, get it together, only you can do it. I know a lot of that is true, but I think it's like a bit of give and take, and maybe that's where you come in. I mean, what sort of things do you think have helped you improve as a person?
That's a big question. I think definitely understanding more about the brain, like, and the mind. Because
you were saying about psychology and stuff.
But like the brain and the mind, I only sort of found this out in last year, but the brain and the mind are actually two separate things. Like the brain is like the physical, like chemistry, like it's like the neuroscience. So it's like your dopamine receptors, your serotonin, like that's the brain. But then your mind is more of like the psychological side, and learning that, like, first of all, that they are two separate things, and sort of the cause and effects. So like when you get up in the morning and like you go to grab your phone, you instinctively go to grab your phone and start scrolling. That's like you want in like a dopamine hit straight away. And like all of the sort of bad habits usually are sort of short form gratification. As we were talking about delayed gratification earlier, like learning sort of that is actual like thing, like that is actually like thing in my brain firing and craving this thing. Like you crave sweets, like when you have sweets, like you get this spike in like serotonin because it's like a feel good factor, but then it goes, and that's why like you overindulge when it comes to like bad things. So learning something like that. I learned about a growth mindset as well, like that no matter how bad you feel or like how sort of like if you don't feel like worthwhile or you don't feel like you've got any value or you've got any skills, like realizing that you are like with a growth mindset, like you can grow and you can get better. I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things. And then also like I think therapy's helped a lot as well. I think because they're like experts in like knowing how you feel, and I think there was a lot of things that like reading online and stuff's great, but being able to sort of like speak to someone and sort of it's like the version I did was talk therapy, where you're essentially just like there's someone there on the end like listening and sort of probing you, but you're doing a lot of figuring out yourself. And it's like being able and you don't even necessarily need a therapist, but if you can just sit down and sort of essentially speak to yourself in a way and like try and figure out like how you're feeling, what you're thinking, but like not just leaving it there, sort of getting to the root cause of it. So like everything on the surface that you think and feel like is a cause of like something more deep rooted, and like being able to understand like yourself on a lot more deeper level has definitely helped me then sort of prevent those things or understand those things more, so that I'm able to sort of use it better in the future. Like to give an example, like I was in social situations, like I used to be very like anxious. I used to be worried about like if people like me, if I'm talking weirdly, if I've said something wrong, like, and that was all like that was like the surface level like of what I was worried about. But what I was really worried about was like if I was valued as a person, and that was me then like putting my own value in the hands of other people. So then understanding that, then I was then able to sort of stop caring so much about how other people perceive me and be more focused on like how I view myself instead. And so just things like that, and it's like it's not a quick fix, like you have to just take time to like really understand yourself before you're able to sort of move past things in a way. I don't know if that was the right answer.
No, that's I mean, I've done a lot of that kind of sort of talking, trying to figure stuff out, whether by writing or like sometimes I've just if I had a sort of point in my life where I was really at a sort of crossroads, and I felt very like I just needed to understand what was going on in my mind. I went for a lot of walks around, just in the rain often, or just sort of recording stuff on my phone. And I mean, I think there's limits to how much that can help. And I think it can lead you down a rabbit hole. But I think I definitely was glad I did it, because I think just you don't spend much time in life figuring out your the reasons behind things, and that's what therapy definitely does. I mean, would you say to people who, because I guess there is a side to self-help that just says it's a complete waste of time. Like, what would you say to that kind of perspective?
I think it's really subjective. I think whatever you deem a good use of time or a waste of time is completely your own decision. Like for some people, for example, like starting your day and making your bed, that could be a pivotal moment for how your day goes. Whereas for other people, you could not make your bed, but then you could get up and graft all day. Like, it doesn't make a difference. Like, it's not black and white. It's what you decide has meaning or not. So for some people, like, dealing with the because to be fair, you should be able to, not you should be able to, but like, no matter how you feel, you should still be able to have the consistency and the dedication to do things.
Yes, yeah.
But I think being able to sort of, instead of just sort of like hiding it away, being able to sort of like overcome it, I think then sort of prevents you from like having issues, like prolonged issues that are worse. So it really depends, and it also depends on like how much it affects you as well. But I do agree it can be a bit of a rabbit hole. But I think so can anything really. It's like
that's just the thing.
Moderation. When you were in sort of your time of like sort of deliberating and like not really knowing where to go, what were the sort of realizations that you had that have made you get past it?
Oh, that's actually such a good question. I suppose I slightly realised that how do I always go? I want to sort of make more of a success of myself, I think, and I mean I don't know if I necessarily figured that out while through these kind of journaling and stuff, but I think I don't know. I sort of realised. I suppose you sort of realise where. Oh, actually, I'm quite unhappy. I haven't really realised that, but at least now I know. I guess to answer the question, that's probably the best way I could say it. Is it's like I sort of realised where I was unsatisfied in life, and I think some of the time you don't really do that. You just brush everything under the carpet, and it's quite nice to get it out and say, okay, I can't spend all my life worrying about this. But I am unhappy in this area, and I don't really know what to do. And you can just say that, I don't know what to do. But that's 1,000 times better than kind of just trying to just sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah, definitely.
Or just say, I'm not. There's this problem here that I'm not strong enough to solve it, and I should be strong enough, but I'm just not. But I suppose the reason I say there's danger going down a rabbit hole is that I sort of realised after a while that I was just kind of recording my thoughts on my phone, and I could be spending that time just on more sort of concrete things that would solve the problem in a more direct way, and like. Yeah, maybe if I just did these few things that I need to do anyway, then maybe that's the answer. But I do think it's subjective. I think for some people, like, talk therapy is just, like, really just... maybe if you're more eloquent, I don't know, maybe if talking's a way you like to express yourself. But I think, it's very subjective.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that, like, people can like either express themselves or understand themselves, and there's no one size fits all. Like, just like everyone doesn't want the exact same life. Like, there's not going to be one solution that fixes everything. And when you said that you were sort of spending all the time making voice notes, then you realise that you probably could be doing something like more efficient. Like, sometimes it's good to have gone through that period of like doing them voice notes, because otherwise you might not have had the realisation that there is a better solution.
Yeah, exactly, and like that's the thing. You just don't really know. It's like a chicken or egg kind of thing.
Yeah, you just got to try. You just got to try something. It doesn't work. Try something new. There's if you believe that there is a solution and that you just haven't found it yet, then you're gonna be more motivated to just like try loads of different things until you do manage to fix it, and then you can go from there. Like, I think that's like the case with everything in life though. Like, as soon as you you don't give up on the fact that like there is a solution to every problem, then like the more likely you are to like succeed at whatever it is that whatever problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah. I mean, that's another good thing is that I guess another thing I kind of been thinking about quite recently is that there very much is a solution to everything, even if it doesn't really seem like it, and maybe if the problem isn't directly you, in some sort of profound way, it is your fault. You know, like let's say you do a course at university and you don't really enjoy it as much as you think, and then you do badly with it, and you can kind of say, oh, it was, you know, the uni's fault because it wasn't the course I wanted, and that's fair enough, but at the same time, in some sense, you still chose not to do well in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of a better example because there are loads.
I completely know what you mean though. It's like as soon as you blame something external, like as to why you're in a situation or why you're feeling a certain type of way, like you then take the power out of your hands.
Yeah, and I think it's weird because that is how you want it to be. You do want to be responsible for everything that goes wrong in your life in some weird way because, well, what's the alternative? That fate's just gonna, you know, slap you, you know, through some terrible thing, and there's absolutely nothing you do about it, and your successes are just you know, coincidence.
Completely luck.
Yeah, it's like, do you really not want to take responsibility for everything you've done? And I suppose if you have that revelation, it's a terrible revelation to think, oh, this is actually pretty much all my fault. But at the same time, if you have that, the rewards is that you have this amazing sense of personal like agency.
Definitely. You like, although it then puts a lot more into like your scope of like things that you do influence other factors, but you also then like have complete power over everything that happens. Obviously there's going to be like examples, like if there was an earthquake or something, like you can't you aren't in control of that, but for like the majority of things, like having like the mindset of like whatever goes wrong or goes right is in your control. You can then have a lot more of like a say on what happens and how you live your life.
And even in the sort of freak circumstances, like let's say there's an earthquake, I mean, it's a bit of a weird way of looking at it, but I think if you're really a big believer in that kind of philosophy, you can still make the best of the situation, and you know, it's okay. It wasn't your fault that the earthquake happens, but it's not your fault that you know, anything happens anymore, and you still have to kind of take it with the same attitudes. Definitely. I mean, let's see what happens when there's an earthquake. We'll record a podcast. But I think in principle that's kind of the attitudes. Like, do you know much about Stoicism?
Do you know I'm reading a book on Stoicism at the minute.
Oh really? Which one?
Yeah, it's what's it called? It's not directly from like Seneca letters or it's a guy who's essentially like compiled all of the core teachings and beliefs and deliver it. Wait, I'll be able to find it on my phone. It's not the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, although I have just listened to a podcast with him on. He is sick, but it is really weird that you said that actually. But yeah, I've sort of heard about Stoicism here and there, but I didn't really understand it. I thought it seems like quite a good sort of mentality to have, and obviously it's like stood the test of time. So many people are into it. So just picked up a book, and I think it's really they talk again about sort of like things are in your control and like how you react. So say there is a situation with an earthquake, it's then like, you might not be directly involved in the earthquake happening, but like everything that you do after that point is on you. Even to yourself.
I wanna read more on it, to be honest, because I mean, I study classics, which has a lot to do with we do a lot of literature and stuff. We don't do so much Stoicism, but one reads around it a bit, and I have got really interested in it. I like Seneca's letters. I found quite interesting. Like on anger, I just thought it was really, if nothing else, just really beautifully written. Like it's just putting things into words so well. And yeah, just this sort of idea that you just got to be, if you're sturdy and strong, then what happens around you is it doesn't matter. You can handle it.
You can deal with anything that sort of comes up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are people who criticise it. Like, I think Nietzsche was quite against it because he says that if you're too stoic, it gets to a point where you're not actually feeling remorse for, let's say your child is murdered in front of you. If you're a true stoic, you will that won't have any impact on you. And that doesn't seem like a good thing, and that's fair enough criticism.
Yeah, I think well, I can't remember which one it is. It might be Epictetus, but one of them actually had like, I think he had like 8 children, and I think 2 or 3 of them had died. And like, I think there's gonna be criticism in the extreme cases of whatever you listen to, and I think it's like you just pick the parts which resonate with you. I think for me anyway. With everything, like there's criticism to self-improvement, there's criticism to like wanting a better life and not being content with where you are right now. Like I think whenever you find anything, there's just always going to be like criticism that comes along with it. And it's just like hearing both sides and picking where you out of it.
Yeah, I mean you can't go too far either direction, I guess. I guess that's the answer. And I think you have to have a bit of stoicism. Even if you don't call it that.
Yeah.
I think even Nietzsche would. I don't know. I'd be interested to know, but I think even he would. You need some kind of just. You need to block out some pain and just kind of get on with it.
Be a bit more grounded.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not too familiar with Nietzsche actually.
No, I mean his whole thing was like life just should be lived in the most vibrant and intense way. And that includes pleasure and pain.
Okay.
So like, like even if the most terrible thing happens to you, that's just part of life. And the Stoic would say, you got to ground yourself and try and transcend the pain. And the Buddhists would say something similar. But Nietzsche would say, no, you got to like feel it as intensely as you can, because you've only got one life, and then your joys, you feel it as intensely as you can as well.
I think with that sort of like, well, from the description anyway, I think with that sort of mentality though, then your life is gonna like ebb and flow so dramatically that like you'll never know like whether you're gonna be really up or you're gonna be really down. Whereas with like if we had it on a chart, like it would be like just spike, it would be proper volatile. Whereas from like Buddhism and Stoicism is more about like trying to keep it as close to that neutral line as possible, and like still enjoying the good times and feeling the bad times, but like not letting it sort of like impact you as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem with Nietzsche's philosophy, and I do quite like it and I'd like to read it properly, but just from the impression I get, it just doesn't really work like that. Like it's like it seems like kind of advice given by someone who doesn't really, he's been described what it's like to be alive and hasn't actually felt it.
It's another ideology, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like very idealistic. But who knows? I mean, maybe I'll read them and change my mind.
Yeah, well, we'll have to pick up on that next time.
Yeah,
because I'd be interested. I want to have a little bit more about Stoicism and stuff.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we'll have we'll book up for the next one. So I suppose, just before you go, what's your sort of Well, I mean, have you got a YouTube account up?
Yeah, I've got a single subscriber so far.
Oh, sick! Well, we'll make that too. Yeah. What's the name tag?
It's just Morgan Bedford at the minute. I'm not even sure if
that's...
you. I might be able to send you it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got 3 accounts that say Morgan Bedford, but just this is the one. Nope. Don't know how to. That's all we've got. So we've got 3 shots and a single vid so far.
Brilliant.
Second one on the way, on Limiting Beliefs, actually.
Brilliant. Oh, there we go. Very well. People know when to find you when they listen to this then. And I'm interested to check out your YouTube because I've had the chance yet. But...
Yeah, I mean, there's not much there to look at yet, but
not yet,
to be
not
continued.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much.
No, pleasure, man.